Kia ora, and welcome to Big Boys Boxing.
I was in the gym the other day. Oh, he's out cold! Straight to his face!
Oh my goodness!
Let's take a short hook on the inside. Crap! Boom! Look, here comes another one. Here comes another one. 3 punches to the butt on the inside. Short, compact hook, and that man is marbleized onto the mat.
Kia ora team, and welcome back to Big Boys Boxing for today's preview and prediction of Kubrat Pulev v Jerry Forrest. This fight's going to be on Triller, and it will be the co-main event to Kubrat Pulev, the younger brother of Kubrat, taking on Sergey Kovalev at cruiserweight. So, a bit about the fighters. Most of you will know plenty about Kubrat Pulev. Dude's been around forever. Even though he's only 28 and 2. He's not the most active fighter. But he is 41 years old. His alias is the Cobra. He is 6'4.5". Most people just call him 6'5". He has a reach of 79.5 inches. So, over the years, he hasn't been that active. Over the last 5 or so years, not that active at all. He is coming off his second title attempt against Anthony Joshua, where he got stopped in 9 rounds. That fight was back in 2020 in December, so he never fought in 2021. Prior to that, he fought twice in 2019. Rydell Booker was the later fight in the year. Earlier in the year was Bogdan Dinu. So his most active year in quite some time. Prior to that, he fought Hughie Fury, which was an okay fight, even for a Hughie Fury fight. Hughie was actually trying to be a bit more aggressive. He got a bad cut early on, so he thought he better do something about it. But Kubrat still took him the distance and beat him up. Prior to that, he fought a burnt out, over the hill Samuel Peter. Before that was Derek Chisora. That fight was a split decision win for Kubrat, but that fight was way back in 2016. We'll just do a couple more here. Prior to that was Maurice Harris. Before that was George Arias, not the George Arias that we know, the prospect. This George Arias at the time was 56-13. And then before that was his first title attempt at Vladimir Klitschko. At the time, Vladimir was 62-3. And Pulev got stopped in that fight in 5 rounds. He got absolutely obliterated. So, we know plenty about Kubrat Pulev, but looking at this picture, man, he's got to be one of the ugliest mofos in boxing, that's for sure. So, moving on. So, Jerry Forrest is 28-4 with 2 draws. Now, most of you will know who Jerry Forrest is. His last 5 out of 6 fights have been against notable opponents with mixed results. So, he is 34 years old. His alias is Slugger. He is a southpaw. He's 6'1". He's not the largest heavyweight, but he does have those knuckle dragging arms. He has a 78-inch reach, so he's only going to have 1.5 inches disadvantage when it comes to reach to Kubrat Pulev. So his last few fights, his last one was also on Triller, was against Michael Hunter, and I think everybody thought this was supposed to be a bit of a tune-up. But Michael Hunter looked a bit sluggish, and I thought Jerry Forrest won this fight. I thought he won it 6-4. It went the distance, but Michael Hunter, I guess he got the A-side treatment from the judges, and managed to escape with a draw. So the fight before that was also a draw. That was against Zhili Zhang, the Big Bang, who we saw in action last weekend, knocking out Scott Alexander in the first round. So that fight was hella interesting. Jerry Forrest got knocked down, I think it was in the first round. He got up. In the second round, he got up. The third round, he got up. And then came out for the fourth round and started throwing a lot more punches. But at the same time, Zhili Zhang seemed to hit a stamina wall and couldn't really do much. So Jerry won every round from the fourth right through to the 10th and got a draw. Now, it was reported that Zhili Zhang was suffering from kidney failure and he was severely dehydrated. I always had some questions over Zhili Zhang's stamina, but to me, I think there was some truth in the claims. I know many people will say you can't trust Chinese medical certificates, but the dude's been living in America for some time now. I think he lives in Florida, so it is what it is. Came out with a draw against a very notable opponent. The fight before that was against Carlos Takam, and that was another one that was extremely close. I thought maybe Jerry won that one as well, but the judges gave it to him. Gave it to Takam via unanimous decision over 10 rounds, but it was a very close fight. Takam looked very sluggish and started to show his age, I think. Before that was a bit of a tune-up. Not even gonna mention the dude's name. He was 3-25 with one draw. But the fight before that was also very interesting. It was against unbeaten prospect Jermaine Franklin, who at the time was 18-0. Now this fight went the distance, and this is another one that I thought Jerry Forrest won 6-4 over the 10 rounds. But they gave a split decision win to Jermaine Franklin. So I don't think anybody can be taking Jerry Forrest lightly. A couple of fights before that, he fought a couple of journeymen, Joshua Tufte. He won that one. And before that, he fought Grover Young, a little short fatty who has some power. But all the fights before that were pretty much padding fights to pad up the record. But this is going to be a very interesting fight, considering Jerry Forrest has been fighting at a decent level. He's been pretty active. He's 34 years old, which isn't that old for a heavyweight. Kubrat Pulev is 41 years old. He's been around forever, and he hasn't been fighting at a decent level or that active for a long time. The only decent couple of fights in the last sort of 4 years for Kubrat have been Anthony Joshua and Hughie Fury. So taking a look at what the bookies think, this is Bet365. They've got Kubrat Pulev just for the win at $1.28, and they've got Jerry Forrest for the win at $3.50. I think those odds are a little bit wide, but I guess they don't really look at what's actually going on with the boxing. They look at the records, and pretty much that's it. The method of victory by TKO, KO or disqualification for Kubrat Pulev is $3.40. I think that's a decent bet. For the KO, Jerry Forrest at $8, I think that one is a little bit unlikely. Kubrat Pulev's pretty durable. I know he was down multiple times against Vladimir Klitschko. He was also multiple times down against Anthony Joshua, but both times it was stopped by the referee. He's never been sparkoed. And I can't see Jerry honestly putting on enough to make a referee stop the fight like that. The other methods of victory here for a decision, Kubrat Pulev paying $1.90. That's reasonable money for that, I think. And Jerry Forrest for the decision at $6. So I think that's a bit of a money maker possibly there as well. My prediction will be for Kubrat Pulev on the knockout, and I'm crossing my fingers that he's not going to show his age, but I will likely hedge that bet with Jerry Forrest on points at $6. So yeah, you make up your mind what you want to do if you're a betting man. So I'm not exactly sure how this fight's going to go. In the past, Kubrat Pulev has been called a poor man's Klitschko because he has a really good jab when he uses it. In fact, he beat up and stopped Alexander Dimitrenko pretty much with a jab. He is actually left-handed, so he fights out of the orthodox stance, but his power hand is actually his jab. However, in the fight against Anthony Joshua, he abandoned his best attribute, being his jab. It was weird. It's like he was trying to fight with bravado, saying, look, I can fight like a man, and you can knock me down, and I can get up, and I can throw big punches. But it wasn't smart. He should have stuck to that jab, because he knocks people out with that jab. Now, this fight is obviously very different to the Anthony Joshua fight. Jerry Forrest is only 6'1", and he has a shorter reach, whereas Anthony Joshua is 6'6" and had an 82-inch reach. So Kubrat will have the reach advantage, and I'm crossing my fingers that he's going to use his jab this time. And that's why I'm predicting that Kubrat Pulev is going to stop Jerry Forrest. No shade on Jerry Forrest. If he pulls this off, I will congratulate him big time. And it's about time that Jerry started getting the rub of the green. He's been hard done by in 3 high-level fights for me. Well, high level for him anyway. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes, but I suggest you really do want to watch this fight. And also the main event on that card is going to be very interesting between Sergey Kovalev and Turval Pulev. They're both pretty old as well. I think they're both 39 years old, believe it or not. But Turval Pulev hasn't had a lot of fights. So, yeah, let us know your prediction for Kubrat Pulev and Jerry Forrest. Might as well give me a prediction for Sergey Kovalev and Turval Pulev at cruiserweight as well. And we can get some conversation going. Make sure you pick a method of victory too. So, I am Jono from Big Boys Boxing. And that is it from me today. I am out. So